Hi everyone, and welcome to another video. Well, I've decided that I'm going to do a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to continue the adventure from where we left off the last time. What's interesting is that since that particular episode, a new version of ChatGPT has come out, and if I just go across to the tavern, we can see, there it is, right there, ChatGPT version 5. Now, it was released yesterday, and apparently it's a lot more robust, and it doesn't hallucinate as much, and basically it's just better. It's a lot better in terms of being able to interpret instructions, write programs, write text in a human way. I don't know if that's the right phrase I should be using. It's just supposed to be better. My hope is that with this version, there's going to be better tracking of my adventure. It's going to forget things a lot less than the older version did. And what I mean by that, and you may remember this, that every so often I've got to ask GPT to summarize the adventure so far and then pick up the adventure from that summary. Apparently, you don't need to do that as much with this version. So really, I'm going to put it, let me see if I can say that properly. I'm going to try and put it through its paces, and we'll just see how well it performs. Okay, so picking up on the adventure, and by the way, I always do this every so often. You can see I've asked GPT to create an image that summarizes the adventure so far, and it's decided to come up with this image of the four characters. I'm not entirely sure why they look so concerned, but that's what it's come up with. Anyway, you might remember that we had completed a battle. One of the enemies had gotten away. We decided to let that enemy go. And we're actually going to pick up the adventure with an investigation. We need to know a little bit more about this interesting black wax seal. So that's where the adventure begins. So let's do it. Let's pick up the adventure right now. So here we are. We're going to begin with an investigation. Sarah works carefully at the black wax seal, muttering as she examines the script inside. It's a cipher. I'll need more time to break it, but this marking here, it matches the Well sigils. The map fragment shows only jagged coastlines, ice flows, and a circle labelled E3, somewhere beyond Witch Pine Valley. Its edges look torn, suggesting it's part of a larger map. Do I want to help Sarah decipher the letter tonight? Ask Halra if she's seen this coastline before. That might be useful. Piece together the map with any fragments you've already found. Let Sarah work alone and take first watch. I think we'll ask Halra because Halra used to be in with the enemy. So let's see what this brings us. Now, like I said, I think there are probably a lot of people putting GPT version 5 through its paces, so I fully expect this to be a little slow in terms of what it comes up with. So I think we just need to be a bit patient with it. And I've just realized that I don't have my die with me. So at some point in time, I'm going to have to pause this video and get my die. Interesting. There's nothing worse than someone who's not prepared for a video. Anyway, we've got a result. Let's have a look at it. Halra sits with her sword across her knees, the firelight catching on the links in her chainmail. When you slide the map fragment toward her, she studies it in silence, eyes narrowing at the jagged coastline. I've seen this before, not here in the valley, further north, beyond the ice shelf. The locals call it the Shattered Coast, treacherous waters, and home to an old fortress, or what's left of one. She taps the circle marked E3. If the eye's cult's moving through there, they'll be buried deep in that ruin. The only way in by land is through a pass that's guarded year-round. Kaelin leans forward, voice low. Guarded by whom? Haura's mouth hardens into a thin line. Not soldiers, not men. Ooh. Do you want to press Haura for details about the guards? Wake Sarah to see if the letter confirms this. Decide to head for the Shattered Coast immediately. Plan to gather more supplies before attempting the journey. I'm going to press Haura and see what she actually means by that, because that's quite foreboding if you think about it. Now, I probably, going forward, will change the size of the font because it's quite small and it might not be very easy to read. But I'll obviously do that a lot later. So, Haura's gaze drifts from the fire to the darkness beyond camp. She keeps her voice low, as if speaking the truth too loudly might summon it. They're called the Hollow Sentinels. Once men, maybe. Now there's something else, wrapped in frost and steel, bound to the land they guard. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they watch. Always. She leans closer, the firelight catching the scar across her jaw. Strike one down, and it rises again the next night, unless you burn the body before moonrise. And if you face them in the pass, you'll be fighting on their terms. Kaelin frowns. Sounds like we'll need more than steel to get through. Sarah stirs at the edge of the fire, her eyes opening just enough to watch you. So that's slightly concerning. We're going to need to be prepared if we're going there. So, do I ask Sarah if her magic can deal with the Hollow Sentinels? Suggest finding an alternate route to the Shattered Coast? Commit to preparing for a direct confrontation? Change the subject and focus on decoding the letter? Let's see if Sarah has anything that she can do to help us out. So I'm going to go with option 1. Because that does sound like it could be something that could bring about the end of us. And I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons in honor mode, where if you die, you die. I'm not sure I want that. Not yet. Anyway, let's see what the result of all of this is. Sarah sits. Well, she's sitting. Sarah sits up fully now, pulling her cloak tighter around her shoulders. The firelight dances in her brown eyes as she listens to Haura's warning. If they're bound by old magic, there may be a way to break that tether. It won't be simple. I'd need to know what bound them in the first place, and for that I need records, ritual scripts, or the words of someone who saw it done. She looks at you directly. Magic that old doesn't die easily, and if they rise with the moon, the key to stopping them may lie in controlling the moon's light or cutting it off entirely. Kaelin smirks faintly. So unless you plan to lasso the moon, we'd better find those records. Haura shakes her head. The only place that might hold such knowledge is Frostmere Keep, and it's been abandoned for decades. Well, I think we know what we're going to have to do. Do you want to head to Frostmere Keep? Continue straight toward Witchpine Valley? Ask Sarah for more details on the Moonlight Theory? Press Haura for what she knows about Frostmere Keep. Oh, right. A bit stumped here between 3 and 4. Let's go with finding as much information as we can from Haura. I think from there, we're probably going to need to get those records. That would seem to be the logical thing to do. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see what are the consequences of the choice that we've made here. Now, like I said, I may need to pause the recording and make sure that I've got my dice. So, Halra shifts her sword aside and leans forward, elbows on her knees, eyes fixed on the fire as though the flames might call up the past. Frostmere Keep was once the northern watchtower of the Old Kingdom. It guarded the mountain pass before the shattered coast. When the kingdom fell, the keep was abandoned, its soldiers scattered or worse. The locals say the cult claimed it decades ago, but only for a time. Something drove them out. No one knows what. She lowers her voice. Some say the sentinels themselves came from Frostmere, men who once guarded the keep, now cursed to guard the pass for eternity. Kaelin grimaces. So if the key to breaking them is there, it's probably buried under ice, rubble, and whatever else drove the cult away. Sarah nods slowly. Which means it's exactly where we need to go. So, do you want to change course and head for Frostmere Keep, gather more supplies before the journey, try to track down the fleeing goblin from earlier? He might have intel. Now, I'd not considered that. Spend the rest of the night planning and set out at dawn. I know this is going to sound boring, but no, I don't want option 3. Let's spend the rest of the night planning and set out at dawn. That way we can sort of consolidate. Which I know does sound boring, but we've got to try and do this sensibly. So what are the consequences of this? And something tells me I probably should have hunted down... Was it a goblin that escaped? But I think I probably should have hunted down that character. Let's see what the result of all of this is. You pass the map fragment back to Sarah and settle in closer to the fire. The sound outside your little camp whirls in heavy curtains now. Travel tonight would be a fool's errand. The group instinctively draws nearer, the cold pressing hard against the circle of heat. Halra lays her sword across her lap, running a whetstone down its length in slow, deliberate strokes. Frostmere's walls are old stone. Ice will make the footing treacherous. If we fight there, we need crampons or spiked boots. Okay. Kaelin pulls a small strip of dried meat from her pack, speaking between bites. We also need rope, long rope. If the main stairs are gone, we may have to climb. Sarah leans over the letter, squinting at the runes in the flicker light. I'll work through the cipher tonight. If it mentions the Sentinel's binding, we may walk in knowing how to end them. So, night planning results. Agreed route, Frostmere, the Shattered Coast, supplies needed, spiked boots, rope, fire-making gear. Sarah will work on decoding the letter overnight. So, do you want to keep watch yourself? Assign Kaelin to first watch, assign Halra to first watch. Let Sarah take watch while decoding. I'll just take the first watch. Being the leader, that's what you do. Oh. There we go. Because that's what you would do as a leader, I'm sure. So, what is the result of all of this? I think we're going to see that very soon. Here we go. You pull your cloak tighter and step beyond the firelight, boots crunching in the snow. The wind is calmer now, carrying only the hiss of falling flakes and the occasional groan of shifting ice. You settle in at the edge of the camp, sword across your knees, eyes scanning the white-black horizon. Behind you, the fire pops softly. Halra's quiet whetstone strokes fade as she dozes. Kaelin curls beneath her cloak, bow still in hand. Sarah mutters under her breath over the letter, the scratch of her quill marking each solved rune. So, first watch, the night passes mostly in silence until you spot movement. Uh-oh. A dark shape, low and hunched, crossing the snow about 60 paces out. The outline is wrong for a wolf, too tall in the shoulders, too slow in its stride. It stops, turns its head towards you. Do you wake Howler immediately? Knock an arrow and aim. Approach quietly to investigate. Hold position and observe longer. Let's observe, see what's going on. Because this is not good. This is actually quite scary. It sounds like Darth Vader's approaching. Obviously, it's not Darth Vader. You sink slightly lower, shifting your weight to keep silent in the snow. The figure moves again, slow, deliberate steps that crunch faintly even at this distance. A ragged cloak trails behind it, whipping in the wind. The moonlight catches on something pale, its face. No, the gleam of frosted metal, half buried in ice along its shoulders. It stops again, head tilted unnaturally far to one side as though sniffing the air. Sarah's voice whispers from the fire, barely audible. Alvarin, what do you see? The shape begins to turn away, heading toward the north ridge. Do you wake the party and pursue, approach alone, or try to get closer, call out to it, let it go and track it at first light? Man, I'm waking people up. This is serious. This is serious. We're being tracked by something that I don't think is of that fantasy world. I don't know if that statement makes sense, but what I meant to say is that something unnatural. You rise in one smooth motion, boots crunching in the snow as you move back to the fire. Your voice is low but urgent as you rouse the others. Up, something's moving, metal on its shoulders, could be a sentinel. Halra's eyes snap open instantly, she grips her sword and is on her feet without a word. Kaylin is already stringing her bow, scanning the ridgeline. Sarah closes the letter and pulls her staff into her lap, whispering a protective chant. The shape is still visible against the snowy horizon, moving toward the north ridge, closer now than before. Do you charge? Send Kaylin to flank while you approach directly. Try to circle ahead of it using the terrain. Hold ground and see if it approaches you. I'm going to try and flank it. I know this is quite dangerous, but to me that would be the logical thing to do. Always talk about the logical thing to do. Is it the logical thing to do? I don't know, but it's definitely what I think is logical. So, what are the consequences of this action? Kaylin's eyes flash with understanding before you even finish the gesture. She melts into the darkness at the edge of the camp, boots whispering over snow, bow ready. You and Halra start moving forward at a pace, low pace, keeping the flicker of the campfire behind you as your silhouettes blend into the frozen terrain. The figure pauses again, its head tilting toward you. A faint blue shimmer pulses along its shoulders like moonlight caught in ice. From the ridge, Kaylin's shadow shifts, she's in position, her bowstring tightens. The thing turns fully toward you, now revealing a half-buried encrusted faceplate. The features human, but long dead, ice fused into the seams. The hollow sentinel. Dun dun dun. So, do I signal Kaylin to lose the arrow, attempt to speak to it before attacking, charge in with Howrah to close the distance fast, Hold and see if it makes the first move. I'm going to hold and see if it does make the first move. I mean, it could just be trying to find out who I am. It's obviously something evil. Definitely something evil. So, at some point in time, I'm going to need to decide if I'm going to engage with it. This is not good. Any way you look at it, this is definitely not good. You raise a hand, halting Howler's advance. The three of you stand still, the cold air stretching between you and the sentinel like a drawn bowstring. The hollow sentinel doesn't move for several heartbeats, then its head tilts back slightly, and a faint grinding of ice on ice echoes through the night. Its empty eye sockets fix on you, a dull blue glow blooming deep within them. It takes one slow, deliberate step forward, then another. Snow crunches like breaking bones under its boots. Kaylin's bow is still drawn, her breath clouding in the cold, waiting on your sign. Halra's knuckles are white on her sword hilt. Sarah stands behind, whispering something low and sharp, readying a ward. Do you signal Kaylin to fire? Stand your ground until it's within melee range. Fall back to draw it toward the firelight. Break the silence and attempt to speak. I'm going to do something very Star Trek. I'm going to try and talk to the enemy. This is quite interesting because it's not a battle. Certainly not yet. I think it could be. What are the consequences of my actions? Your voice cuts through the cold air, steady but loud enough to carry over the wind. Sentinel, why do you walk the pass? Who bound you here? The figure halts mid-step. The grinding of ice stops. For a heartbeat, there's only the sound of the wind whistling between the ridges. Then, a voice answers, low and hollow, like breath through a frozen tomb. Bound to guard till the moon shatters. The blue glow in its eyes flares brighter, the frost crawls over its armor like living veins. It takes another step forward, faster now, the snow spraying beneath its boots. Do I signal Kaylin to fire? Charge with Howler before it gains speed. Ask it who bound it here, retreat toward the fire to fight on your ground. I'm still going to question it. One more question before I decide whether I'm going to attack or not. I think I might end up doing that. But something tells me there's something I could learn from this creature. Let's see. You raise your voice again, stepping forward into the moonlight so the sentinel sees you clearly. Who bound you here? Tell me. The sentinel freezes mid-stride, its head turns slightly as if listening to something far away before the hollow voice grinds out again. The eye, the voice in ice, the king who never died. The blue glow in its eyes flickers like a torch in wind. A faint crack runs down the side of its frost-coated helm, leaking a shimmer of cold mist. Howler's voice is low, urgent, beside you. Alvarin, that's cult magic, old cult magic. The sentinel shifts its weight, ready to either answer more or attack. Do you press it for more information about the voice in eyes? Ask how the binding can be broken, prepare to strike. Step back and let Sarah question it magically. Well, I guess magic would be helpful here. I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to throw caution to the wind. How can the binding be broken? Let's see what this brings. Your breath clouds in the freezing air as you lock eyes with the glowing blue light deep in the sentinel's socket. How can the binding be broken? Tell me. The sentinel tilts its head back slightly, the frost on its armor crackling as it moves. The hollow voice comes slower this time, each word grinding through ice and metal. Shatter the moon's gaze, burn the shell before it wakes again, speak the name that bound it. The light in its eyes flickers, and for a moment it seems to take a step back. Then its gauntleted hand grips the hilt of the rusted sword on its back. Sarah whispers sharply from behind you. We have what we need. Don't push it, Alvaran. Do you withdraw and let it go, order Kaelin to loose her arrow, attack with Halra while it's still hesitating, try to get the name that bound it from it now. Ah, choices. I'm gonna push. See what happens. I might get injured. Hope I don't end up injuring anyone in my party as a result of this choice. But it wouldn't be Dungeons and Dragons if something bad didn't happen. So, what have we ended up with? You take one step forward, your voice sharp as steel in the cold night air. Tell me, then tell me, the name that bound you, speak it. The sentinel's helm dips as though the question itself weighs on it, frost shivers loose from its pauldrons, whatever that is. When it speaks again, the voice is harsher, as if something deep inside resists. Thalis Verin. At the sound of the name, the blue glow in its eyes flares violently, then flickers erratically like a dying flame. Its grip tightens on the sword's hilt. Halra's voice is tense. You've broken something in it. Decide now, Alvaran. Do I strike before it recovers? Order Kaelin to fire, step back and let it go, keeping the name. Signal Sarah to bind it magically. Now, if I do that, I'm guessing I'm going to need to do a dice roll. So I'm just going to pause this for a moment and get my dice. Okay, I've got my dice at the ready, and I'm going to go for option 4, which is to signal Sarah to bind it magically. Because I think there's so much more I can learn from this creature. I'm sure there is. Question is, what am I rolling and what do I need to get? Wonder if it's a D20. I suspect it probably is. You glance at Sarah and give a sharp nod. Her eyes widen for just a heartbeat. Then she plants her staff in the snow, both hands gripping the wood as she begins to chant in a low, urgent rhythm. The air around the sentinel shifts, snowflakes hanging in place as a faint ring of silver light forms beneath its boots. The hollow sentinel jerks, the blue glow in its eyes flickering wildly as if fighting against unseen chains. Frost steams from its armor in thin wisps. Sarah's voice is taut with strain. I can't hold it for long. Do something. Halra's blade is already drawn, her boots crunching forward. Kaelin's bowstring creaks as she lines up a perfect shot. Do you attack? Try to interrogate it further before Sarah's spell breaks. Signal Kaelin to disable it without killing. I'm going to go with 3. I just think there is so much more that we can learn from this creature. But I don't want to kill it because it hasn't actually attacked me. Although it looked like it was going to, so. What is ChatGPT version 5 going to tell me now? You raise a hand sharply toward Kaylin, signaling for control, not a kill. She adjusts her aim instantly, dropping her target from the helm to the joint of the creature's knee. The bowstring thrums in the cold night air. The arrow slams into the sentinel's leg joint with a crack of splintering ice. The hollow sentinel buckles, half collapsing onto one knee. The silver light of Sarah's binding spell tightening around it like chains. It lets out a low grinding roar, gauntleted fingers clawing at the snow. The blue glow in its eyes flares and dims rapidly, unstable. Sarah's teeth are clenched. It's held for now, but this is the only shot we get to finish the binding or take it down. Do you attempt to bind it permanently, knock it unconscious and drag it back to camp, destroy it while restrained, release it intentionally to track where it goes? I'm going to try and bind it and see where that takes us. I'm guessing there's no right or wrong answer here. Now, some people have said in the past that when playing Dungeons and Dragons using ChatGPT, it doesn't actually matter what you do, you're never actually ever in peril. And I've not experienced that. In a past episode, I was very, very close to death. Could be wrong. Anyway, let's see what we've come up with. You drop to one knee beside Sarah, your hand gripping the edge of her staff. The silver light deepens, tendrils of magic clawing up the sentinel's body like roots of moonlight. Sarah's voice is tight, sweat beading along her brow despite the cold. Say the name Alvaran 3 times with me. It's the key to the binding. Your voices join in the frigid stillness. Thalis Verin, Thalis Verin, Thalis Verin. On the final word, the sentinel convulses, its body cracking like shattering ice before freezing mid-motion. The blue light in its eyes fades to nothing. Frost blooms outward from its boots in a wide circle before stopping abruptly. The hollow sentinel kneels motionless, encased in a thin crust of shimmering ice, its sword still strapped to its back. Halra exhales slowly. It's dormant for now. So, do you leave it? Attempt to take the sword from its back, mark the location and return later with tools, smash the ice to destroy it fully. Let's see what's going on with that sword. That might be useful in the upcoming battle. I think there's something of use here. So if I can get the sword and we're done with this creature for now, we've just got to make sure that we've got enough rest so that we can move on to what we originally planned to do, which was to get those records. And that might be a good point at which we stop for today. You step cautiously around the frozen form, boots crunching in the brittle frost even. The silver sheen of Sarah's magic still glimmers faintly, but you can feel the dormant weight of the thing's presence pressing against your skin. You grip the sword's hilt, it's frozen to the scabbard, the leather stiff with frost. With a firm twist and a sharp pull, the bindings crack and give way. The blade slides free, its steel darkened and etched with faint runes that seem to shift when the moonlight hits them. A sudden cold rush flows up your arm like a winter wind through your veins, but it fades quickly. The weapon is lighter than it looks, balanced for both one and two-handed use. Sarah eyes it warily. That blade's bound to the sentinel's magic. Handle it with care, Alvaran. Halra smirks faintly. or just hit harder with it. So I've gained, yes, a Moonveil Greatsword. +1 magic, hit and damage, glows faintly under moonlight, special property. To be determined, I'm guessing. Do you keep it for yourself, offer it to Halra, ask Sarah to study it first, bury it here to avoid its magic influencing you? Let's see what Sarah has to say about it before we decide to either take it. But I'm probably going to give it to Halra so that she gets whatever advantage she can get from having a sword like that. I've already got a magic sword. So, again, we wait. So, what am I turning? You turn the blade in your hands once before offering it hilt first towards Sarah. You're right. Better to know what we're dealing with before I start swinging it around. Sarah doesn't immediately take it. She studies the runes. Her expression tightening, finally, she accepts the weapon with both hands, careful not to let her skin touch the blade. This isn't just enchanted steel, it's a vessel. The magic in here is tied to the binding, we just reinforced. If we break the seal, the sentinel spirit might flow into the wielder. Whoa. She glances at you and Halra in turn. Give me until morning to examine it. If I'm wrong, it's just a powerful weapon. If I'm right, we'll have to decide whether the risk is worth it. Kaelin shifts uneasily, scanning the ridge. Then we'd better get back to camp before something else comes wandering. Do you return to camp, search the area around the sentinel, try to break off a piece of its frozen armor to study, set up camp here for the night. I'm going to return to camp. That seems to be, again, the best thing to do. Let's return to camp. We can leave that creature there bound because it's not going anywhere and it's not going to be able to do anything. Interestingly enough, I didn't need my dice. Die is singular, sorry. Dice is plural. You give a sharp nod, signaling the others to fall in. Halra takes point, her boots crunching a deliberate path through the snow, while Kaelin moves to the rear, arrow knocked in case anything follows. Sarah walks between you, the Moonveil Greatsword wrapped in thick cloth against the cold. The wind begins to pick up as you leave the ridge behind. The sentinel's frozen silhouette fades into the white haze until it's just another jagged shadow in the fjord's night. By the time you reach camp, the fire's embers are low but still glowing. Kaelin sweeps the perimeter before settling in. Halra drops her pack with a grunt, and Sarah carefully lays the wrapped sword beside her bedroll. At first light, I'll begin the analysis, but don't touch it, not even to move it, until I'm done. The group settles in, the snow muffling the world beyond your small circle of warmth. Do you take first watch again? Let Halra take first watch as Kaelin. I took first watch. I'll let Halra take over. That was quite an adventure for me, so I think someone else should probably do it. We're getting close to the end of this episode. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the morning and what Sarah thinks of the sword itself. I'm interested to find out what that's going to be before we end this episode. Halra pulls her cloak tighter and grabs her sword, settling onto a low rock near the fire's edge. The flicker of the flames casts bronze highlights over her chainmail as she watches the shadows beyond camp. Get some rest. I'll wake you if anything stirs. Kaelin has already pulled her hood over her eyes, Leaning back against her pack, Sarah kneels beside the wrapped Moonveil greatsword, muttering a few protective charms over it before curling up near the fire. The night air is sharp and dry, and the faint creak of frozen trees is the only sound for the next stretch of hours. You drift into a light sleep, the image of the frozen sentinel still etched in your mind. At some point in the night, you feel a firm shake on your shoulder. Halra's face is tense in the firelight. Wake up, Alvaran. We've got movement again. Different direction this time. Do you grab your weapon and investigate immediately? Wake the others first. Let's go with 1. And let's see what happens. If it's going to be another battle, then that's just going to be for another episode. I get a feeling it might be another battle. What if there are more of them? I mean, we just encountered one. Now that would be scary. But we're about to find out. What is going to happen? You're on your feet in seconds, sword in hand, shield strapped tightening against your forearm. The cold bites your cheeks as you step just beyond the fire's glow beside Halra. She points towards the west, where the snowy ground slopes into a narrow gully. In the moonlight, you catch glimpses of several low dark shapes moving in a slow weaving pattern. Too low to be human, too many to be lone wanderers. A faint, high-pitched yipping carries over the wind. The sound of paws crunching snow follows, closer than you'd like. Uh-oh. Halra mutters, winter wolves, at least 3, maybe more, they're circling. From behind you, Sarah stirs half awake, and Kaylin's hand is already on her bow. Do you wake everyone, fully and prepare for battle now? Try to scare the wolves off before they get closer. Stay low and see if they pass without noticing. Move to higher ground and force them into a choke point. I think we should probably get everyone up. I'm going to need everyone in this battle. So, we are going into battle against some wolves. So I'm going to get everyone up. And whatever comes of this, this is going to be our final action before we end this episode. It's nice to end on a bit of a cliffhanger, I think. So, let's see what GPT-5 comes up with as our final action. You crouch by the fire, shaking Sarah fully awake while Kaylin is already moving to her feet. Winter wolves, 3 or more, form up. Sarah grabs her staff, muttering an incantation under her breath, while Kaylin slips into position just beyond the firelight, an arrow already drawn. Halra stands tall in front, sword raised, using the fire's glow to keep the approaching shapes in sight. The yipping stops. Silence stretches across the snow. Too still. Then 3 massive, white-furred shapes emerge from the gully, their eyes glinting pale blue, breaths steaming in long plumes. One, the largest, steps forward, lips curling back to reveal teeth like carved ice. What a cliffhanger. We've got 4 actions there. Charge with Halra. Hold position, let them come to you. Signal Kaylin to loose an arrow at the lead wolf. Have Sarah cast a protective ward before the fight starts. I won't say which one I'm going to go for, even though I can look at it and I'm pretty certain of what I'm going to do, but I'm going to leave it there for now as a cliffhanger before we go into the next episode. So, GPT-5 seems to have done what it needed to do, and I'm really happy with that. We'll continue to run it through its paces in the next episode. But for now, that's it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.